It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be pod-smacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
All right, guys, episode number 214 of the Rob Carson Show podcast. Hello and welcome to the show. Please come inside. For those of you downloading on iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Audio Boom, SoundCloud, Google Play, Google Plus, and, of course, YouTube. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. Also, Liberty One TV viewers, thank you. Merry Christmas, by the way. I've got some Christmas decorations up here. Got my little tree. Got my little stuffed toys here from Santa Claus coming to town. Getting in the Christmas spirit. I hope you are as well. And if you would, order and become a member of Liberty One TV. All right. It's a bargain at only 33 cents a day. $10 a month, $99 a year. It'll give you some great discounts on the store. By the way, Liberty One TV has a swag store, politically incorrect gear. They're adding a whole bunch of my stuff, which is kind of cool. You can see them. If you're watching Liberty One right now, you can see them right here on the screen. I've got your safe space right here. There's a bunch of Christmas stuff on there, pro-Christmas, anti-war on Christmas. A bunch of NFL gear basically saying, I stand for the national anthem. Get off your arse. So if you would check it out, that'd be great. And to become a member, okay? Thank you. And share on social media. Anyway, welcome to the show. There is much to get to. And I want to start off the show by just saying this, okay? We don't need to have a national conversation on sexual harassment. We don't need to have a national conversation on sexual harassment. We had that conversation. Washington, D.C., Hollywood, New York City, the media, they need to have a conversation on sexual harassment. And they need to start listening to us. The amount of depravity that is going on, it started in Hollywood as far as the uncovering of it. It went to Washington, D.C. Now it's in New York City. It's in state houses around the country. They need to have the conversation. We don't need to have the conversation. You know, these are the places, these are the seats of power who are so willing to tell us how to live our lives and tell us what we're doing wrong in our lives and how you know you're not paying enough in taxes. You know, you drive an SUV, you should be driving a crappy little car. You need to get rid of all your light bulbs, replace them with poison light bulbs. You need to live with less. Well, they live with more. And the levels of depravity are unbelievable. Unbelievable. Matt Lauer is done. He is done. His career is over. It is shredded. He is gone. Harvey Weinstein is gone. Kevin Spacey is done. And the dominoes are falling. Geraldo Rivera could be next. I will share what's going on there with Geraldo Rivera. But this morning, Savannah Guthrie read a statement from Matt Lauer. Now that 24 hours has settled in with regard to all of the allegations of sexual harassment and sexual assault at work, here is the statement.
There are no words to express my sorrow and regret for the pain I have caused others by words and actions. To the people I have hurt, I am truly sorry. As I am writing this, I realize the depth of the damage and disappointment I have left behind at home and at NBC. Some of what is being said about me is untrue or mischaracterized, but there is enough truth in these stories to make me feel embarrassed and ashamed. I regret that my shame is now shared by the people I cherish dearly. Repairing the damage will take a lot of time and soul searching, and I'm committed to beginning that effort. It is now my full-time job. The last 2 days have forced me to take a very hard look at my own troubling flaws. It's been humbling. I am blessed to be surrounded by people I love. I thank them for their patience and grace.
The healing is, you may think you're healing, but I don't think the people that you hurt will ever heal. Kathy Lee Gifford had an interesting response to Matt Lauer.
The feeling when you've been, and I don't feel that Matt has betrayed us in any way at all, but when I found out that my husband had betrayed me, you question your own judgment. You question, you say, was everything a lie? Was everything a lie? And I think we have to fight against that, very much fight against that, that the man we know and adored was was the man we loved and adored and continue to. I texted him this morning and said, I adore you. And no person is perfect in this world. Nobody is. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory.
Yeah, but none of us, in fact, 99.9% of us have never sexually assaulted someone until they passed out in their office, Kathy.
God is what Scripture says.
Yeah.
And what we need now is forgiveness, and we need mercy for one another. And we don't need taunts, and we don't need ugliness. We have enough of that in the world. Right. I send out my love right now to the person, whoever it is, who came forward. May God heal that person. I send it to Matt and his children and his wife. May God bless that family and heal.
Absolutely.
And heal. And it's only, I'm sorry, Hoda, but in my long life, the only thing I've ever been sure of is that only God can heal it.
I think
only God can heal it. And just, there's no bad time to reach out for his help.
Okay. I appreciate her saying that. And for all the people who Matt Lauer has hurt and all of the people that he's worked with and his family, I pray for them. But it is too early to talk forgiveness to that man. You may consider that unchristian-like, but it is too early to talk forgiveness for his sins. He's got a long way to go if he ever gets there. If he ever gets there. NBC brass ignored a litany of complaints. This is not a surprise. This is what we hear. Everybody knew. I said this about, Harvey Weinstein. I said this about Washington, D.C. with regard to sexual harassment in Washington, D.C. Everybody knows. Every Democrat knew that Harvey Weinstein was a molester and an assaulter. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, of course, knew this. They're thick as thieves, guys. They're thick as thieves. And yesterday, maybe some people were reeling because Matt Lauer is such a likable person on the air. Everybody knew. Everybody knew. NBC executives failed to act on complaints from several women about crude behavior by Today Show host Matt Lauer. Variety has been done a terrific job. NBC News chairman Andrew Lack, and it was apparently Matt Lauer's lackey covering him up. But anyway, in a Variety report published Wednesday, one female colleague got a sex toy for a present, and then Matt Lauer gave her a note saying he'd like to use it on her. He exposed himself to a different female colleague, often engaged in crude sexual charged office manner, conducted multiple rendezvous with women. As he traveled the world covering the Olympics, he had one Variety NBC reporter said the executives predicted the SH out of Matt Lauer. It did not make clear when complaints were made about Lauer's actions or to which executives the complaints were made, but we can say unequivocally that prior to Monday night, current NBC News management was never made aware of any complaints about Matt Lauer's conduct, but people who'd been there for a long time knew exactly what was going on. Lack's deputy, current NBC president Noah Oppenheim, I should say, spent 2 years as the executive in charge of the Today before being promoted. He comes back into the story here. One industry insider said it's hard to read the Variety article, still conclude that those two guys, Lack and Oppenheim, who worked with him for so many years, had no idea about his behavior. New York Post published a report that Lauer had sexted multiple female staffers at NBC, including one intern. Everybody knew about the Matt's behavior. Okay. Oppenheim has faced a firestorm of recent criticism, including calls to resign after he was blamed for spiking the Ronan Farrow story, the expose of Harvey Weinstein, which would have been the first report to accuse the Hollywood mogul of sexual harassment. The revelation of Lauer's alleged conduct, observers are wondering if NBC's reticence to run the Weinstein expose had more to do with troubles within NBC's own house. So they were afraid that covering the Weinstein story would uncover Matt Lauer. Variety reporter Ramin Satude was talking with Allison Camerata about how everybody knew. Unbelievable.
Is this one of these things that we now hear about with Harvey Weinstein? It was sort of true at Fox, called an open secret, where people at the Today Show and people in the building knew that Matt Lauer was doing things like this? Or does this come as a surprise, the level of accusations?
Our sources say it wasn't even considered a secret. It was known by many employees at the Today Show, including some employees that have gone on television and said, publicly. We had no idea.
It's going to get a lot worse. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
According to our reporting, some of the other personalities and on-air personalities were aware of these allegations.
If management knew this level of, really lewd, highly, grossly inappropriate, some of these things in your reporting, look, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if you want to call them assault or being accosted, but it was clearly unwanted in many of these cases. So what's NBC going to do?
I think they have a trust problem. How can they go forward and say we're cracking down on sexual harassment if people who work there knew that there was knowledge of this situation and of this behavior?
Did any of the women that you spoke to allege rape or something that would rise to prosecuting a criminal case?
In the reporting that we published, no.
But there's more to come.
We've been in communication with more victims, and more women will be coming forward to tell their story. We're confident of that.
Okay. Harvey Weinstein is being investigated. Matt Lauer now? Unbelievable. Matt Lauer did a lot of creepy things, by the way, on the Today Show set. Katie Couric was being interviewed in 2012 while being interviewed by a guy named Andy Cohen. Listen to this, a little revealing.
You co-hosted the Today Show with Matt Lauer for 15 years. What is Matt's most annoying habit?
He pinches me on the ass a lot.
Okay, that sounds funny, right? A little revealing. It's like Louis C.K. He talked about women told of how he would masturbate in front of them. And half of his comedy routine is about masturbation. Wow, they sure are being quiet, aren't they? It's like laying down with enemy fire going over. Louis C.K., Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, Charlie Rose, absolute silence, absolute silence. Oh, it's going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger. Here is Matt Lauer. Apparently, Meredith Vieira was on the set. She was bending over to pick up some papers off of a table, and here's what Matt said.
Hey, sweater. Keep bending over like that. It's a nice view.
He said, bend over like that. It's a nice view. Bend over that. It's a nice view. A couple years ago, Anne Hathaway was there to promote movie Les Miserables, which was pretty good. I enjoyed the movie. She's a beautiful actress, and apparently somebody took an upskirt photo of her when she was getting out of a car, and Matt, during the interview about the movie, wanted to focus more on the upskirt video.
Anne Hathaway, good morning. Nice to see you.
Morning, Matt.
Seen a lot of you lately.
Sorry about that.
You were.
I'd be happy to stay home.
Why would it be necessary to open an interview about something so humiliating for a woman that some jackass, when you are getting out of a car, takes a picture of your underwear?
But the film.
Let's just get it out of the way. You had a little wardrobe malfunction the other night. What's the lesson learned from something like that, other than that you keep smiling, which you always do?
Well, it was obviously an unfortunate incident.
Yeah.
I think it kind of made me sad on two accounts. One was that I was very sad that we live in an age when someone takes a picture of another person in a vulnerable moment, and rather than delete it and do the decent thing, sells it. And I'm sorry that we live in a culture that commodifies sexuality of unwilling participants, which brings us back to Les Mis, because that's what my character is. She is someone who is forced to sell sex.
Yeah, and then she kept saying, can we get back to the movie? Can we get back to the movie? And he wanted to talk about her underwear. This sort of thing, and you see this in the tabloids. How sickening is it? How sickening is it that a woman can't get out of a car with a dress on, that somebody's there to take whatever picture they can get? Honestly, what the hell? And I've seen some of these pictures. And, to me, it doesn't give me a thrill. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's just grotesque. It's grotesque. It's really that some people are so just sick that a woman can't wear a skirt without fear of somebody taking an opportunity to take a picture of her underwear or, whatever. Just or nip slip. God damn, what the hell? Or then we get enough? Can we get enough of that in just regular media, porn? Honestly, if we as consumers of media, maybe we need to address this. Some of us, if you've ever looked at, what's her name, the ESPN reporter Erin, I can't remember her name, but this guy took pictures of her through the keyhole. There were a lot of people who looked at those pictures. It was an absolute violation of her private. Erin Burnett, and just sickening. And the next time you see a nip slip, I mean, yes, Kim Kardashian deserves it because she's a piece of crap. She is a piece of crap. She, whatever with her, who cares? But there are some women, like Anne Hathaway. She didn't deserve that. Here's Matt Lauer grilling Bill O'Reilly a couple months back about being fired from Fox News. And I want you to listen to this because he's basically accusing Bill O'Reilly of listen, it's like he's reading his own bio.
You were the guy that the ratings and the revenues were built on. You carried that network on your shoulders for a lot of years. So doesn't it seem safe to assume that the people...
This is autobiographical. Same thing with Matt Lauer. The Today Show is a $500 million franchise. He was carrying it.
Fox News were given a piece of information or given some evidence that simply made it impossible for you to stay on at Fox News.
That's a false assumption. There were a lot of other business things in play at that time and still today that 21st Century was involved with. And it was a business decision that they made. But there isn't any
But you don't let your number one guy go unless you have information that you think makes him...
That's not true. There are billions of dollars at stake in business deals. And they made a business decision that they could, possibly prosper more without me. It was as simple as that. It was a business decision.
Did you ever send a lewd text or email to another employee at Fox News?
No.
Did you ever have any human resources cases brought against you?
Not in 42 years.
The New York Times.
Wait. In 42 years. All right, I've been in this business. I've worked for 12 companies. Not one time did I have any interaction with HR, any complaints filed against me.
The New York Times reported that up to 5 women had come forward over the years and complained about sexual harassment at your hands, and that Fox News actually made deals with those women, financial settlements.
Okay. Wow. The hubris to take that interview, knowing what he knew. Wow. That is quite simply remarkable. And it shows you the level of unfeelingness that he had. That he could do this interview and ask him questions like, did you ever send? And he had done all of this stuff, sex toys and sexts and sexual assaults and sex in his office and a lock on his door, on his desk that he could lock the door so nobody could come in from his desk. Roger Ailes had the same thing, by the way. Wow. Well, apparently, a woman has come forward saying that she was summoned by Matt Lauer. She was married. She come to his office. She locked the door, and he sexually assaulted her until she passed out. According to the report, she was in her 40s at the time. Lauer was behind his desk. She took a seat in the office. She said he locked the door from a button on his desk, asked her to unbutton her blouse. She said she complied and claims he got up from the desk, approached her from behind, bent her over his desk, and had sex. She claims that she passed out during intercourse and woke up later on the floor in his office. She said Lauer had his assistant take her to a nurse. She says she told the Times that Lauer never mentioned the encounter with her again, and she said she left the network about a year later. The accuser asked the paper not to identify her in the report. The paper said it contacted her ex-husband, who said he remembered the alleged encounter. The two were separated in 2001, now divorced. The Times reported that NBC received at least 2 more complaints from Lauer after the network announced he was fired prior to Wednesday's Today broadcast. Meanwhile, NBC staff or executives have been told about an incident that he allegedly occurred when Lauer was at the 2014 Olympic Games in Sochi. The intern there allegedly provided a photo, which was a major part of the evidence, which is why the firing came so quickly. It was so damning They had no other option but to fire him. The photo showed incontrovertible proof of inappropriate sexual behavior on his part. And he did it for years. By the way, a senior producer for Jake Tapper's State of the Union has been fired for alleged sexual misconduct. Tapper wrote in a tweet that he was fully supportive of the decision. The tweet is accurate. When CNN executives were told about these complaints, they reacted swiftly and appropriately, as they should. Workplaces need to be safe, and I'm fully supportive of CNN's action. CNN spokesman, a comprehensive investigation was conducted as soon as this matter was brought to our attention. Just unbelievable. Geraldo Rivera gets torched online for his bizarre defense of Matt Lauer. Listen to this. He tweeted, sad about Matt Lauer, great guy, highly skilled and empathetic with guests, a real gentleman to my family and me. News is a flirty business, and it seems like current epidemic of hashtag sex harassment allegations may be criminalizing courtship and conflating it with predation. What about Garrison Keillor? He said, a jerk's a jerk in dating. In another tweet, sexual harassment should be confined to situations where superiors impose himself on subordinates who feel unable to complain because of the power of the perp or feared consequences to victims' employment. David Burge responded, not sure having a remote door lock on your office sex dungeon counts as flirting or courtship, but you're the media. Sherry Jacobus said, courtship. Is that what you're calling it these days? Give a woman flowers, hold open doors, whip your genitalia out in front of her? Caitlin Huey Burns, excuse me, Geraldo, dropping one's pants and sending a coworker a sex toy is not courtship. He immediately reaction to my tweets today on hashtag sex harassment makes clear I didn't sufficiently explain that this is a horrendous problem. Long-hidden harassers are deviants who deserve what is coming to them. Often victims are too frightened to come forward in a timely fashion. I humbly apologize. There's an old interview of Bette Midler that she did a while back. I believe this was 1991 with Barbara Walters, where she told Barbara that Geraldo Rivera assaulted her.
Geraldo and his producer came to do an interview with me in the 70s, the early 70s. And this was when he was very sort of hot. And he and his producer left the crew in the other room. They pushed me into my bathroom. They broke 2 poppers and pushed them under my nose and proceeded to grope me. And I didn't have any grope me.
Wow.
I did not offer myself up on the altar of Geraldo Rivera. He was unseemly. His behavior was unseemly.
And you don't remember.
And my friend says, "Oh, what a charmer! Of course you slept with him after that."
Well, let's go on to other things, shall we?
I'll tell you the truth. If I had known he was going to be so, he was going to, 20 years later, he was going to wind up a slimy talk show host, I never would have even let him in the room.
Unbelievable. And that one just kind of went by the wayside. Was that the sign of the times in 1991? You could say that and nobody would notice. Nobody would notice. Here's actually a little levity. Jimmy Kimmel talking about Matt Lauer being fired.
Matt Lauer was let go from the Today Show this morning because of unspecified allegations of sexual harassment. This morning, my wife looked at her phone. She went, "Oh, my God, Matt Lauer," which, of course, I assumed he was dead. So
yeah,
I guess this is better. I don't know. And as far as Matt Lauer goes, what happens now? I mean, does he have to do an emotional sit-down interview with himself?
Here is Jimmy Fallon.
You guys, the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree was lit tonight. Also getting lit tonight, the HR rep over at the Today Show.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the big story today. NBC has fired Matt Lauer from the Today Show after he was accused of inappropriate sexual behavior. So if you're wondering where in the world is Matt Lauer, he's probably at a bar with Charlie Rose.
Think about how big this is. 2 of the biggest anchors on television in 2 weeks found to be sexual harassers, maybe sexual abusers. Unbelievable, right? It is. It shows you the disconnect between those people and us and you and me. It really, really does. It really shows the disconnect. Politicians, celebrities, they live by a different set of rules. These are all Democrats, by the way. I know I hate to tell you this. They're all Democrats. Matt Lauer, Charlie Rose, Glenn Thrush, Mark Halperin. You've got Harvey Weinstein. You've got, of course, all these actors, Kevin Spacey. Let me see. What's his name? The Jeffrey Tambor. David Corn, MSNBC contributor. Matt Taibbi, Rolling Stone. Jan Winter, Rolling Stone. Ian Pryor, senior editor of The Guardian. The Guardian, I should say. Matt Sullivan, The Guardian. Garrison Keillor. I don't know. And now Garrison Keillor, I think that he's being screwed. I do. And I don't like to defend Garrison Keillor. I mean, I like his show. I've listened to his show for a very long time. I don't listen to it very often. When I catch it is when I, hear it, which isn't very often, but it's brilliant. It's funny. And I've always enjoyed it because it's a throwback radio program. And he's a great storyteller and a great writer. And he has been fired by NPR, Minnesota Public Radio. He's was notified of the allegations, NPR said, and so they let him go. They've gotten rid of distributing his radio show. They've gotten rid of his line of goods that he sells, pretty good goods. All of these other things. This is why NPR needs to support its own damn ass. You've got this money-making show. Everybody says PBS. The Republicans want to take away Big Bird. They want to take away. You know what? The Muppets are $1 billion enterprise, okay? They don't need effing PBS, and PBS doesn't need our money anymore, and neither does the radio. Radio or TV, screw them. That aside, Garrison Keillor wrote the Star Tribune in Minneapolis, said, I put my hand on this woman's bare back. I meant to pat her on the back after she told me about her unhappiness, and her shirt was open, and my hand went up about 6 inches. She recoiled. I apologized. I sent a letter of apology later, and she replied that she had forgiven me and not to think about it. We were friends. We continued to be friendly right up to until her lawyer called. He said, getting fired is a real distinction in broadcasting. I've waited 50 years for the honor. All of my heroes got fired. I only wish I could have been for something more heroic. He says, anyone who ever was around my show can tell you I am the least physically affectionate person in the building. Actors hug, musicians hug. People were embracing every Saturday night, and I stood in the corner like a stone statue. Said if I had $1 for every woman who asked to take a selfie with me and who slipped an arm around me and let it drift below the belt line, I'd have at least $100. So this is poetic irony of high order. But I'm just fine. I've had a long run. I'm grateful for it and for everything else. And I don't think he should be frickin' fired for this. I don't think he should be. This is when it becomes a warlock hunt. Not a witch hunt, a warlock hunt. This is when it goes too far. That is not a career-ending infraction. That's bullcrap. That said, people are looking for old sound bites, and yes, Matt Lauer saying that about, Meredith Vieira was creepy. Garrison Keillor was talking in 1994 about sexual harassment, and this is probably not too far after the Clarence Thomas Anita Hill hearings, and here's what he had to say about it.
When scandal breaks and we get to see the humanity of the great and the powerful revealed, naked and dumb in front of us, there's always a cry for new rules or at least some new awareness that will prevent this from ever happening again.
Now, that's what's going on in Washington, D.C. That doesn't have to happen with you and me. We didn't do this. We were living by the rules. But that's what they're doing. There's a hue and cry, and it's meant to distract. It's not meant to reform. It's meant to distract from their sins.
We should be careful, though, not to make the world so fine and good that you and I can't enjoy living in it. A world in which there is no sexual harassment at all is a world in which there will not be any flirtation.
Now, he's talking about flirtation. He's not talking about assaulting a woman until she passes out after you locked her in your office.
A world without thieves at all will not have entrepreneurs.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. Anyway, and I don't think this is an indictment of him. This comment is not an indictment. If anything, it's common sense 23 years ago that should be implied and should be in place now. James Clyburn defending John Conyers. Clyburn compared Conyers' accusers to the child murderer Susan Smith, who initially claimed a black man had abducted her children. Okay? Unbelievable. He said, these are all white women who made these charges against Conyers. Unbelievable. That racism at this level exists anywhere in this country is unbelievable. Not surprising. Not surprising that this pig bastard, I'll just say it, would say something like this. He's the guy he was talking about the sexual harassment on the Capitol and how many of people in the industry have stepped down. Why hasn't John Conyers? And he said, well, who give me some names? And he said, well, Kevin Spacey, blah blah blah. And he goes, well, who elected them? Because he's that old school set. He is the proletariat. You are the bourgeois. They live by a different set of rules so they can get away with things. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And this is actually I think I have the exchange. This is the exchange. Clyburn being chased by a reporter into an elevator. Here's what he said.
Other men in other industries have faced similar accusations and gotten out of the way, resigned, stepped down far faster than he has. Right?
You would have to give me some examples.
Harvey Weinstein, Charlie Rose, Matt Lauer.
I don't think they. Who elected them?
Who elected them? So he's a racist and a complete bastard. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Nancy Pelosi, who called John Conyers an icon on Sunday, I wasn't saying that yesterday.
Well, the allegations against Congressman Conyers, as we have learned more since Sunday, are serious, disappointing, and very credible. It's very sad. The brave women who came forward are owed justice. I pray for Congressman Conyers and his family and wish them well. However, Congressman Conyers should resign.
There you go. All right. Tell me Nancy Pelosi didn't know this was going on. Tell me she didn't know that this was going on. John Conyers being hospitalized due to stress, apparently. 2 Democrat colleagues have called on him to resign. Their fellow Black Caucus members, Congressional Black Caucus members. He's been in Congress the longest of anybody. He's been there 52 years. He's 88 years old. The other story that is not being covered is his dementia. There was a big piece I read yesterday. The other big story, the other big scandal is Conyers' deteriorating mental health. A lot of people have known about this. The News Herald in Michigan deemed Conyers unfit to hold office in 2014. Accounts for the 84-year-old seeming disinterest in the job or downright absent-mindedness are hard to come by. John Conyers no longer fit to serve, and those close to him must know, according to Detroit News columnist Noah Finley. I don't know whether he has dementia, Alzheimer's, senility, or some sort of diminished mental capacity. It's just clear that he's not right. So there's that, too. But, why should that stop him from being a congressman? I mean, they've had congressmen serve into their 90s who could barely feed themselves, if that. By the way, the House approved a bill requiring lawmakers and staff to take yearly anti-harassment training. Lawmakers okayed the bill by voice vote with no objections. Now, normally you hear this big, they stand up and they talk about like banning bump stocks and all this stuff, and they get their sound bites and then it just disappears. Not hearing a lot of people talking about this too much. Barbara Comstock sponsored the bill with Jackie Spear. House Speaker Paul Ryan says we cannot and will not tolerate this kind of behavior. We're taking issues of sexual harassment very seriously. We're going to continue to do that. Blah, 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 blah. And they'll just pass this. And this is a Band-Aid. And it'll resonate for about 3 days. And they're going to use it maybe in campaign ads, maybe just let it go altogether. And then they're just going to go back to the same crap. Because that's what they do. Sickening. Stephanie Kemplin of Mainville, Ohio, is 41 years old. She's the 5th woman in 2 weeks to accuse Al Franken of inappropriate touching her. Second person to allege such behavior while on a USO tour. She was touring the Middle East in the Iraq War. She met Franken. And she knew that he was Saturday Night Live, the whole deal. When he put his arm around me, he groped my right breast. He kept his hand all the way over my breast. I've never had a man put his arm around me and cup my breast. He was holding my breast on the side. Kimblin repeatedly used the word embarrassed to describe her immediate reaction at the time. I remember clenching up and how you must, you feel yourself flushed. And I remember thinking, is he going to move his hand? Was it an accident? Was he going to move his hand? He never moved his hand. She said it was there long enough. I should have known it was, if it was an accident. I'm very confident of that. There's a picture, and she's just Franken's right arm wrapped around Kemplin's back, and his hand and is on her side at chest level. Doesn't appear to be holding her breast. Looking at the picture, Kemplin says she recalls feeling frozen and numb. I did not process it in those seconds. I was in a war zone. You were on a USO tour. You just are you trying to boost the morale of the troops? Or are you trying to boost your own? I just feel sorry for the girl in the picture talking about herself. You're immediately put on the spot. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Your mind goes a mile a minute. What the hell? Who the hell was I going to tell? She doesn't recall telling any soldiers about the incident because she felt ashamed. This is what these predators, they expect shame to keep people quiet. I remember telling, this is her sister saying, Amy, her sister says, I just remember her telling me that he grabbed her breast and that she was so shocked about it. My sister's pretty bold and assertive. She said that she didn't know what to do. Screw him. Kick his ass out of Congress. Kick his ass out of Congress. And then there's the Roy Moore thing. And I heard my buddy Chris Plant talking about this morning. You know, we've got all this depravity going on around the country, and you've got all these people like Matt Lauer and Hollywood types telling you and me how we should live our lives and saying we don't pay enough taxes and saying we don't do enough this and we don't do enough that and all this crap. And I think maybe this is, and this is what Chris said this morning, maybe this is Alabama's way of saying F you to people like Matt Lauer and F you to people like the Washington, D.C. establishment. Particularly the media, because they're told, the media preaches about how wonderful the left is and how these Democrats are and is constantly shredding Republicans. And then we find out, months later that depravity exists at unbelievable levels in the media and in Hollywood, in Washington, D.C., on the left side of the political equation. And maybe this is the way that Alabamans are saying, screw you, we reject you. Mitch McConnell says that if he gets elected, he's going to go after him, though.
And on December the 12th, they'll get to decide who they want to send to the Senate, and we'll deal with that when that happens.
So if that happens, there still are senators who say we could vote to expel him from the U.S. Senate. But what does that say to the state of Alabama? They've heard all the arguments. And I know you said you believe the women who came forward. I tend to think some of them are credible as well. But people of Alabama are hearing it all.
They're going to make the decision in Alabama. And we'll
should you in the Senate then invalidate that by expelling him out with the two-thirds vote?
We'll deal with the aftermath of the decision the people of Alabama make on December 12th.
Okay. So they're going to go after him. And, whatever. It's fine. Just don't drop the ball on what's going on. We want to know the 264 people who were paid off in Congress. We want to know where the $17 million went. We want to know who the perpetrators are. Let's work on that first, okay? Joe Scarborough says that Donald Trump has the early signs of dementia. If he's looking for dementia, he should look at his co-host, actually. Here he is talking about Donald Trump this morning and what a danger he is. This is in response to the tweets of the Muslim terror incidents, the Muslim destroying the Virgin Mary statue, the Muslims throwing the guy off the building and beating him to death, the supposed Muslim kid beating up another kid with crutches. That was proved to be false. But here he is talking about Trump.
If this is not what the 25th Amendment was drafted for,
then what is it?
I would like the cabinet members serving.
Listen to, Mika Brzezinski just sits there and chirps. And it's just awful.
America, not the president. Serving America.
America.
You serve America, and you know it. You know you don't serve Donald J. Trump. Scam developer. Trump University proprietor. reality TV show host. You don't represent him. You represent.
Scarborough's mad because Trump tweeted out about somebody who worked in one of Scarborough's campaign offices who died in, I think, 1991. And he had a heart condition. She fell and hit her head. And it was probably stupid, of Trump to tweet it. Although Michael Moore reserved a website, I think it was something like Joe Scarborough murdered something like that. Because Michael Moore was on the bandwagon about conspiracy. Regardless, that's why Scarborough's pissed off.
Represent 320 million people whose lives are literally in your hands, and we are facing a showdown with a nuclear power.
Yeah.
And you have somebody inside the White House that the New York Daily News says is mentally unfit.
Oh, the New York Daily News says he's unfit. Okay.
That people close to him say is mentally unfit.
Who?
That people close to him during the campaign told me had early stages of dementia. Now, listen, you can get mad at me if you want to.
Said the same thing about Ronald Reagan.
You can say that's not okay to say, but
it is okay to say when are we supposed to say this? After the first nuclear missile goes?
The last 8 to 12 years, North Korea got their weapons because we played footsie with them. Because Madeleine Albright took an autographed Michael Jordan basketball and gave it to Kim Jong-il. Okay, we played footsie with them for a very long time, and they ended up getting weapons. And now we are dealing with the shrapnel of that. And we've got a tough-talking president who says, we're just not going to stand for it. And I don't know what's going to happen, guys. But I'll tell you what, right now they're able to launch missiles. Now they're just experimenting with them. They don't have a surefire way to get a missile to our shores with a nuke on it. Something's going to have to happen before that happens. I hate to tell you. And here's actually Lindsay Graham talking about it. Of all people, Lindsay Graham saying that we're going to have to do something about this.
China is the key to this. The president's engagement with the Chinese was very productive, but this is a provocative act by North Korea. They're miscalculating President Trump.
This is about the latest missile that landed in Japanese waters.
And he is ready, if necessary, to destroy this regime to protect America. And I hope the regime understands if President Trump has to pick between destroying the North Korean regime and the American homeland, he's going to destroy the regime. Hope China understands that also.
Yeah.
Even if it means that the huge number of casualties?
Even if it means thousands, hundreds of thousands of people over there get hurt to protect America. Now, that's the choice that the president has to make. I stand with him. The best outcome is not to have a war. I don't want a war. He doesn't want a war, but we're not going to let this crazy man in North Korea have the capability to hit the homeland. We're not going to live this way.
We can't live this way. We cannot live this way. We lived with the Cold War. We ducked and covered and all of this stuff, and now we've got a legitimately insane person. We cannot live this way. We cannot go forward this way.
To our friends in China, we're not going to live this way. You need to help us. And if you don't help us, we'll take care of it. And us taking care of it means that the war's in your backyard, not ours.
That is something you wouldn't expect to hear from Lindsey Graham. This is getting real and getting serious. Orrin Hatch, of all people, you want to talk about, an insider. You want to talk about an establishment conservative. Here's what he had to say about President Trump and his tweets.
I'm not aware of it. I don't pay much attention to his tweets. I'll say this for you. He's been one of the best presidents I've served under. And the reason he is he's not afraid to make decisions. He's not afraid to take on the big mouths around here.
Yeah. He's not going to make a nuclear deal with Iran. Everybody knows is bull crap. And guys, this is real. We live in a dangerous world. I've got a T-shirt on my swag line that says it's right there. Sometimes war is the answer. I'm not a warmonger, dear God in heaven. My son is 18 years old. But this has got to stop. This has got to stop. We can't live like this. We can't have a generation of our kids raised under this. Something's going to have to be done. Oh, this is kind of good news. John McCain's going to vote for the Senate tax reform bill. That's pretty amazing. I figured he was going to kill it. After careful thought and consideration, I've decided to support the Senate tax reform bill. I believe the legislation, though far from perfect, would enhance American competitiveness, boost the economy, provide long overdue tax relief for middle-class families and companies coming back to the U.S. rather than pay 35% tax, 20%. We've already seen the signs of the policies of Donald Trump, or the promise of them. Deregulation and the promise of tax reform. 3.3% GDP the last quarter. Housing starts a 10-year high. Housing values going through the ceiling. All over the country, including Las Vegas, of all places. Finally, just a goofy story that I saw out of Philadelphia. There are some bad neighborhoods in Philadelphia, and there are some people who go in, and generally a lot of these places, these neighborhoods, bad neighborhoods, largely African-American neighborhoods, just be honest. I was in Washington, D.C., I know this. Some of the entrepreneurs, the few entrepreneurs that will go into these areas are Koreans, are Indians, and they will take the risk to make to reap some rewards and make a living in some of these bad areas. They open stores. A lot of the times they're convenience stores, they're liquor stores, whatever. And this is the case of a bad neighborhood in Philadelphia and a city councilwoman who feels that the bulletproof glass that protects these shop owners in their stores is an indignity to her constituents. Here's a little bit from this story from WTX TV in Philly.
Broad Deli sits on the corner of the 2200 block of North Broad. Outside, there are high-intensity lights to illuminate loiterers. Inside, a wall of bulletproof glass separates customer from workers.
The most important thing is our safety and the public safety.
Rich Kim's family has run the deli, which sells soda, snacks, meals, and beer by the can for 20 years. He says the glass went up after a shooting and claims it saved his mother-in-law from a knife attack. Now, he may be forced to take some of the barrier down.
If the glass comes down, the crime rate will rise, and there will be a lot of dead bodies.
So this woman is saying that it's indignity, and basically she's saying it's kind of racist, I think, to put up bulletproof glass, even though it's a very dangerous neighborhood where people shot all the time. Look at Baltimore. And because it's an indignity to some people who might otherwise, commit crimes if the glass were not there. Here's part 2 of the story. And it's, by the way, WTXF Television, Philadelphia.
The bill moving through City Council reads, no establishment shall erect or maintain a physical barrier. It's called the Stop and Go bill and is being offered by City Councilwoman Cindy Bass.
Well, right now, I think the plexiglass has to come down.
Yeah. She wants to put some controls on these small stores that she says sell booze, very little food, and are the source of trouble in her district.
We want to make sure that, that there isn't this sort of indignity, in my opinion, to serving food through a plexiglass only in certain neighborhoods.
Well, what the hell? What the hell? If you're in a bad neighborhood, if you're in a military zone, you're not going to put up plexiglass in the cul-de-sac, neighborhoods where houses cost $500,000.
Kim resents the charge. Stores like this attract loiterers and argues calls to police are often met with a slow response. Mike Chow runs a nonprofit supporting Korean-owned businesses. He plans on raising $100,000 to fight the measure.
I do think it's a bad bill that will endanger Korean Americans.
Bass says she's battling for her constituents. Kim argues, as a Korean American, he's being targeted.
Listen to this.
This bill targets Korean Americans.
Absolutely not.
Targets Korean Americans.
Absolutely
We
not.
own these shops, and our lives will be put in danger by this.
Absolutely not.
In some neighborhoods, and I know this, in Washington, D.C., for instance, there are some neighborhoods where Korean-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses come into African-American neighborhoods, and there's a great deal of resentment and hatred and outright racism toward them. That exists. There is an envy there. There is a hatred there. There is a squalor that has existed, and these businesses go in and attempt to make a living, maybe a meager living, and they're despised because of it, because of who they are, by the people in those neighborhoods who resent the fact that they're successful. who resent the fact that, maybe they didn't drop out of school, who resent the fact that, maybe they're living at home, with a single parent and dad's nowhere to be found. And these people move in and they make a living. While some people, I'm not just saying African Americans, but while some people just live off the government, these people come in and work hard and they're resented. Here is the final soundbite from that story.
She said she finds it offensive that anybody would claim that she's targeting Korean Americans. Bass says that more cameras, a security guard, a security wand may answer some of the security issues.
So
Mr.
you're going to do
says
wait.
police guarantee is safe.
You're going to insist now that you're going to take down the plexiglass wall because it's an indignity. But she's saying, so we want you to hire a security guard, maybe wand people down. All right? Really? What else? Wand people down?
May answer some of the security issues.
Hold on.
A security wand may answer some of the security issues. Mr. Kim says, have the police guarantee his safety. He'll take the plexiglass down tomorrow.
Yeah. Hire a security guard. Unbelievable. You know what? That's her saying, hire, somebody in her district who is indignified to do security. Like a little protection action, maybe a little protection racket. That's what that sounds like to me. She wants to establish a little protection racket with some of her indignified constituents. Unbelievable. This is built solely on resentment and hate. That's what it's built on. And as far as an indignity, sorry if there are some people who are good people in the neighborhood who feel like it's undignified, but it's saving the people's asses in there who have the balls to come into your crappy neighborhood and set up shop. I used to hear about the food deserts. There are food deserts in areas and bad neighborhoods in the country. You know why they're food deserts? Because they're bad neighborhoods. Because they get robbed blind. Because people get shot and stabbed. Because they get shoplifted. It's a dangerous. People get shot going to work. Yeah, there are food deserts. You know what? Sorry, you're going to have to find a ride, and you're going to have to go a couple miles to get to a decent grocery store if you're going to continue to live there. And don't tell me there's not the ability to move somewhere else. I hate to be the cold conservative, I guess, right? Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for me, guys. I want to thank you for watching and listening today. It's a blessing to be here. Thank you for downloading. I know many of you who are listening to me on different radio stations around the country, including KFYI in Phoenix, going to be on WBAP in Dallas, KLIF in Dallas, also WLS in Chicago in the next few weeks. More people are listening to the daily podcast, and if you would share, please, on social media, the iTunes podcast particularly, iTunes, iHeartRadio, but iTunes is better. They count the downloads, and maybe someday I'll be able to sell some advertising, all right? Also, want to thank LibertyOneTV.com. LibertyOneTV.com. If you get a chance to right now, you go to tpublic.com/user/conservatees. You can order any one of my cool designs. Which one? Yeah, right. No, right here. These cool designs right here. I've got your safe space here, right here. The Christmas ones, the ones that said, I say Merry Christmas, get over it. Among other things, you can have it put on hoodies. You can have it put on T-shirts, whatever. They've got some great prices, and I think you'll really enjoy some of the designs. They're not all political. There are some Kansas City-centric stuff. There's some Maryland-centric stuff there that I think you'll enjoy. And veganism is an eating disorder. There you go. Get that one. That's a good one. Also want to thank Liberty One TV. Liberty One TV. Become a member of Liberty One TV. It's only 33 cents a day, $10 a month, $99 a year. We're adding new talent every single day, and it's a great way to ensure freedom of speech. There it is. I say Merry Christmas. Deal with it. And instead of Happy Holidays, you say Merry Christmas. Have a glorious rest of your day, guys. God bless you. And I will see you guys again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram. I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now. We'll see you soon.